Hi, friends. We're live. It is our first night of our Home Sellers Week this week. And here we are. Here we are. And hang on one second here, you guys. We are going live with, I got to get our Instagram up really quickly. And so forgive me for a minute as I get that in. Bear with me. We're just going live. Nothing exciting is happening just quite yet, but it will be soon. Whoops. Hang on one second. All right. Trying to get our Instagram live here up. Let's see if it goes. So thanks for everybody that's just joining in. Lucas, if you can check Instagram live stream to see if we've hit there. Hopefully we'll be heading up there. We've had a little bit of difficulty at points with our Instagram streams, so hopefully this goes live here. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think it's hopefully, okay, it's saying we're having trouble loading. So we'll give it another minute here. For those that are tuning in, it is our night one of Home Seller Week. If you joined us last week, we had several wonderful guests throughout the week, and we delved into a lot of topics that are real timely for buying a home in today's market. We've all heard the media stories and how crazy it can be. So last week, we devoted a lot of resources to bringing education and a lot of opinions and such. Lucas, by the way, thank you for confirming that Instagram is working. So if you're seeing us on Instagram Live, hope you'll tune in there too. We are recording these, so they'll get posted on my Facebook pages if you're watching us there or somewhere else. But we decided after last week, or we were deciding, in addition to do a week for buyers, we wanted to talk to sellers too and share some of our best practices. So this week, we're delving into a lot of different topics. Tonight, the theme is, when is it best to list your house? And maybe just a little general overview of what we are seeing in the market. My pal Haley Westoff from Compass and the McPherson Westoff Group is going to be joining us here in a very short amount of time. And a little bit later, I think we're going to also have Stephen Natow from Keller Williams in Chicago also joining us towards later in the broadcast. And our hope for this week is that you guys will tune back in on a number of times, but also get a lot of great information. We get so many questions that sometimes doing these big events, even if people only chime in for 5 or 10 minutes, really puts a lot of great knowledge out into the industry. And we're really big on our team about information and sharing it and kind of telling you what we're seeing and making that a regular thing. So we are excited for tonight. And then the rest of this week, and again, if you're tuning in, make sure to feel free to comment. We don't see comments on Instagram, although Lucas is helping us tonight and he's watching for them. So he'll be sharing those with me. And if you have questions, pose them there. And then on Facebook and YouTube Live, you can certainly comment right there and that will come through. We use a platform called StreamYard, which syncs up to all of our different social media channels. And I will see those comments here. So feel free to say hello, give us a little wave, let us know you're watching. And of course, like, comment, and share throughout tonight. And invite your friends if you're so moved. Grab a drink or a cocktail. I'm having water because, hydration when you're talking a lot. And in just a minute or so, I'm going to bring my pal Haley on and we're going to shoot the breeze a little bit about what we're seeing and when's the best time to list your home. But real quick first, I want to give you guys the preview of what's to come the following nights. Tomorrow night, we're going to do a piece on top 5 things that are most stressful about selling a house and how you can avoid them. We've got a lot of different guests, including a couple recent past clients, and how they helped make the experience less stressful for themselves. Later in the week, Thursday, we're going to talk about how do I choose the best offer. That could be if you're in a multiple offer. It could just be, hey, I got this one here. Do I take it? Do I wait for something else? What do we do? And then we'll wrap it up Saturday morning with our little Q&A. Guests TBD on that one, but we should have a couple different broker friends from other markets to share what's going on where they are and in their neck of the woods, again, to bring you a lot more knowledge and education. So before I forget, let's get rolling. Haley, are you ready? She's in our virtual green room. Awesome, love it. Yay, I'm already seeing likes. Hi, David Green, thank you for watching. I just saw you like an hour ago. So I am excited to bring on my pal Haley Westoff from Compass. She leads a team over there. I'll let her tell you more about that. And you'll notice with this too. So I'm gonna before I bring Haley on, a lot of people ask me, Scott, that's crazy. You bring other realtors on in your market onto your event? Yeah, because we should collaborate, and that's a really big piece of the guests that I had last Tuesday night in our home buying week. Julie and Josh, and this week with Haley and Steven. So like huge on collaboration, and like we all can get a piece of the pie, and God, do I want some pie right now. So with that, Haley, I'm going to bring you on to the live stream. Now I really
I want some pie too.
right? Like, God, I should have thought about that. That would have been great. So,
well, thanks, Scott, for having me.
Introduce yourself a little bit to our followers out there in internet land.
Sure thing. So I'm Haley Westoff. I'm with Compass. I'm one of the leaders of McPherson Westoff Group. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
That's it. That's all we need. And Steven's in our virtual green room for a little bit later too. So hi, I can't hear you, but we can see you. This is a very exciting part of my night. So, all right. So we were talking a little bit before backstage, if you will. See, it's just like the Late Show, except without music and without like real.
It's way better.
And but it's like way better, totally.
Way better.
I should get a laugh track or something. So, and so one of the themes tonight, and we were starting to talk about this earlier, was like, people are really coming and saying, should I list my home now? Should I wait? What should I do? So I'm curious to see kind of what you're seeing, because we're all kind of trying to predict right now, like what's going to happen next month, this summer, 6 months from now. And I haven't figured out the holy grail or the glass. I was gonna say glass slipper. I'm losing it on analogies tonight. Crystal ball. There we go. Haven't figured that out yet. So maybe you can share what Rose is saying right now.
So it's just like you said. I mean, this is obviously one of the most unpredictable years we've ever seen, and a lot of surprises that nobody could have ever foreseen. So it's very hard to say what's going to happen a month from now, 3 months from now. We can say that this year has certainly not followed any trends of prior years. And we can certainly say that COVID has created this urgency and emotion and, strong desire to move and make their home a priority. Yeah. So we know that there's a ton of demand in the market. There are people, wanting more space, wanting more green space, wanting more outdoor space, wanting a home office, wanting a more updated space. So we know that the demand is there. We have the stats to say that the inventory is lower than really it's ever been in decades. Yeah. So, it's all about supply and demand. And when you have high demand and low supply, that's when it's a seller's market. So it's certainly a great time to list right now. As time goes on in a normal year, we see that the demand starts to decline, as does inventory. And generally, it turns into somewhat of a stagnant market and then ultimately into a buyer's market. Yeah. I don't personally see that happening this year. I think that inventory will remain to be low. And I think that the demand that we're experiencing right now, there are a lot of buyers who have been putting 1, 2, 3, 4 offers on places and still don't have a place. So there's a ton of buyers that are out there right now waiting for the right place to come up. So, as we have seen a little bit of a slowdown with buyers, they're still out there waiting. So I really do feel like this year, for the rest of the year, will be to some degree a seller's market. So I do think now is the best time to list. The sooner the better. As COVID becomes more and more in our, rear view window, which is awesome. Yeah, right. I do think that the COVID mindset is ultimately what has driven this urgency and demand. And when that goes away, this demand is going to somewhat go away. So, I do think the sooner the better.
Well, and I'm just putting a couple of like inventory numbers, which we'll talk about here in a minute, into the chat for people. Sorry if you're on Instagram, you're not going to see this. We're going to talk through it here in a second. Hold on one second. I'm just going to finish this. I love my data. So we were starting to talk about that month supply of inventory, which is for single family homes. I mean, we can barely keep them on the shelf. I feel like so when we talk about the month supply of inventory, for all of you listeners out there in internet land, what we mean is if today no more homes came on the market, and that can be by neighborhood, by price point. We're talking general, just city of Chicago numbers for ease right now. It's going to be a little bit different depending on where you are, right? Like depending on the type of price or the type of price you're at, or price range, the type of property, and the neighborhood. These things are going to skew. So I will preface it that what we're talking about is very blanket, like broad view macro. You want the micro if you're selling a house right now. So that's definitely something you can get to, but today we're going to talk more macro. So the month supply of inventory tells us if no more homes came on the market as of today, how long would it take for us to sell through those available homes? And that's based on the previous sales kind of trajectory, right? So you look and say, well, how many homes sold on average every month over the last 6 months? That tells you your month supply. We're at a 1.6 month supply of inventory. And to give you some perspective, if anything under about 5 or 6 markets, or 5 or 6 months rather, is considered balanced. So the lower it gets from 5, the more it favors sellers. So 1.6 month is like, oh my God, my head's exploding. And our 2 to 4 units are sitting at 3 months right now, condos at 3.7. But the single family homes has been the craziest one because it's just been going down all year. So there's that's my data for the evening. There you go. I'll touch on it more later for people that join us later. Have you seen the most demand among your clients that are selling and buying? Has it been within the single family home space, or have you seen it also in condos or multifamilies?
I'm definitely seeing it, like you said, it's very specific as to what kind of property and what neighborhood at what price point. Generally speaking, the highest demand right now is for the bigger homes, the bigger condos, the ones with a lot of outdoor space. So, the luxury market is doing better than, in my experience, than it ever has.
Yeah.
And the single family homes are gone like this.
Yes.
The bigger condos are moving very quickly. The properties that aren't moving so quickly are, of course, the ones that people are moving out of, which is the one to 2 bedroom ones and ones that don't lack outdoor space.
Yeah, those ones have been a hard time. A lot of people say, when's the best time to list that? I'm like, I don't know if there's the best time. It's just
2 years.
That's right. But that also goes back to what we talked about, different markets kind of trading places depending on what you have. And we were talking earlier too, just historically trying to, we're all trying, I think right now to figure out what's going to happen. Right. And I agree. I think we're still going to see a very solid seller's market. Although we were talking before tonight started where we're kind of seeing like there's a little bit of friction, I think, arising from the buyers towards the sellers right now, because I think buyers are getting a little sick of this seller market. And so I still think there's enough demand and it's still low enough supply where if you don't want to play ball, 2 or 3 other people will.
Correct.
But it's going to be interesting to see at what point that starts to shift. Because we saw that the last time when we were in a buyer's market and the sellers started to take control back. And it was gradual, but I can already see as of this week, a little ping here, a little ping there, where I think people are going to they're like, I don't know that the seller should have this much say anymore. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. I actually had a conversation with one of the attorneys that I use often. And she had mentioned on average, maybe 2 contracts fall apart in a month for her. Yeah. And in the last 7 days, she had 8 contracts fall apart. Wow. So I think that sellers are getting greedy and buyers are starting to take a stand. And
yeah. Seller greed plus buyer frustration is like, yeah, I think right now too, it is easy, I think, if you're a seller to be in the mindset of, well, if you won't play ball, I'll find someone else that will. And very often that is the case, but sometimes it's you gotta look at those pieces and say, well, are we potentially going to be back in this same boat with another person,
Right. And is it worth it?
Exactly. So I think that's so I definitely see that kind of holding over people's head a little bit too, where they go, well, I don't like, again, the seller got so much for me. Now I'm going to pull that kind of like, making credits back through inspection or being a little bit nitpicky, and I think it's hard right now for either party to a lot of times feel like it's a fair and equitable transaction because somebody's getting hurt, right? Like the seller is thinking, well, it's a seller's market. Why should I do this for you? And the buyers are thinking, yeah, but I also gave you the price you wanted or this or that, and not all deals. We're not saying all deals are like that, but there's definitely a little bit more contestuousness, I think, in
I
the
agree.
and you can see it right there. If they're used to seeing 2 deals fall out and they had 8 fall out, that's, I think,
In 1 week. Yeah.
That's 1 week. Jeez. Oh my God. And was it 2 a week before or 2 a month?
2 a month.
Oh my God. That's even worse.
Yeah, it's a crazy, it's a crazy.
Oh my God. Whoa, that's crazy.
Yes. I think buyers, I personally, I have a few buyers right now that have gotten just too frustrated with the market right now, and they're pausing and waiting this out because it's tough for buyers right now. They have to I've told them, you kind of have to sell your soul right now to buy a house.
I mean, it's not untrue, but I also think, and so I think when you're the seller too, I think what's important to remember if you're selling, if you're also going to be a buyer, I'm a big believer in karma. So keeping that mindset of like, don't screw your buyer too hard or too much, because you're going to get it.
You're going to get bad buyer karma. Yep.
And it's like, oh, it's going to hurt, So I think that's one of the things. If you're just tuning in, by the way, because I see we've had a little bit of shift in our numbers. So if you're just tuning in here on Facebook or Instagram Live, welcome. It's our first night of Home Seller Week here, and Haley Westoff from Compass has joined us, and we're just kind of talking a little bit about the market, and specifically, tonight's theme is when should I list my home? So we're going to delve into that a little bit more, which is to say, there's a couple of predictions I think we can make, but what's going to happen? 2021 is a year unlike any other. So throw out all the data points. They may not come true. But if you're watching, make sure to comment. We can see comments in real time through Facebook and also through YouTube Live and Instagram. Lucas is actually monitoring there too. So if you comment there, he will put that in the private chat so I can see that. We appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. And with that, we're just gonna get back more to what we were talking about. So here's something I think that might be useful for a lot of people to hear is like how we can figure out, because of course, right now we know what the market's doing today, right? We know it is a good time to list your house right now. And a lot of clients saying, well, what's it going to be like in June or July or August? And I'm like, I don't know the answer to that question because I don't have a crystal ball. But one of the things I've thought is I think that we will see this summer, with the vaccines continuing to roll out and the number of people that seem to be like traveling already or ready to, I have a thought that we're going to see, and I could be completely wrong, and tell me if you think I'm wrong on this. I think we will see so many more people traveling this summer. I think our summer is going to be a little slower because I think people are going to be enjoying life a little bit more. And I have a feeling our market's going to slow and everyone's going to panic and go, oh my God, the market's slowing down. And it'll be like, well, it's the summer. That is not unusual if it happens. So
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I think that this entire year has been all situational and all derived from something with COVID. And I know I have a lot of plans for Chicago for the summer, and I want to travel a lot. So I think everybody else has the same plans. And yeah, when people go out of town a lot and they're busy, doing things, that living life, the last thing on their mind, or it's not the first thing on their mind, is to
Yeah.
find a home. I
Yeah.
do think that a lot of this home buying frenzy that happened during COVID was because they were bored. Everybody was stuck at home searching on their computers. They had nothing else to do but look at beautiful houses online.
Yeah.
So, when the summer rolls around and the weather's nice and everyone's out, I do think there will be a little bit of a slowdown. I agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. We're trying to like push our clients now, like because it's May now. It's like, oh, come on, like, let's go, y'all. Like, let's make this happen because, we don't want to lose that momentum or be the one, oh, well, they sold with 10 offers and now how come we're only getting 2, or we're not getting any quite yet, So I think that's going to be an interesting thing that we have to look at as we get towards the summer. And I have a feeling the sellers will be like, where's all the traffic? Well, it's summer, so we're starting to kind of prepare our clients now for like, we're heading towards the summer. So if we're going to make a change or move or do something, let's do it now, and be ahead of it. What other things are you hearing from your sellers? Like, are you like, in terms of how they're feeling about like the market and where it's going up? Have people been chatting, like chiming in for you?
I think everybody's very curious,
Yeah.
as are we.
Yeah.
It's very tough to predict. And I do believe a lot of my sellers have taken advantage of this market.
Yeah.
They may have been planning on listing next year. I have a listing right now. They were planning on, building a house in the suburbs, going to move next summer. But hey, why don't we take advantage of this, insane market? So I do think it has changed a lot of timelines.
Yeah.
And, I do think that sellers are really in tune with what's going on.
Yeah.
And yeah, so potentially inventory could, because sellers are getting the memo,
Yeah.
and sellers want to sell when it's a good market. So, inventory, while it usually does start to decline, potentially, potentially we still see a pretty good amount of inventory for the rest of the year.
Yeah, one of the things I'm really curious about is I've noticed that it usually takes about 5 or 6 months of a consistent, repetitive message in the media and by realtors. And this year it has been, we need more inventory. And so I'm wondering, like, we really started to hear that around the beginning of February. So if I fast forward 6 months, that's August. Are we going to see a bump in inventory in August? Whereas before we wouldn't have like, where that wouldn't have been a time. And so I'm going to be curious to see if we see more stuff coming to the market then, which is a direct response to, I've been hearing this, because we're even starting to get the notes from people now that are like, well, I want to do something, but I want to do it in like September. And it's like, well, I don't know what September is going to look like,
Yeah, it's tough to say.
Yeah, exactly. But then I'm also worried, like, well, will we see higher levels of inventory? And one of the things that we've been struggling with, and I think it plays in really well, is a lot of our sellers are also someone that are going to go buy a home, as we mentioned a few minutes ago. And I had a client we were talking with today, specifically, we were addressing, they were like, well, this is what we're looking for. And what they're looking for is a very small little, like, it's a I think there's been 8 or 10 of what they want in the past 24 months. And so it's like, so the conversation was, well, then we need to get you out of this house. So, because they're home sale contingent, and they have to sell. If you're tuning in, you don't know that term. It means a buyer has to purchase or sell a home before they can purchase. And so my advice to them was, you need to sell this. It's a good time for you to sell it now. Get out. You're going to have to go rent for a year or 18 months or maybe 24 months until this other property comes on market. So I think we're also we're seeing a lot of our sellers are going, well, where am I going? And because they don't know that they're not entering the market, which is, I think kind of paralyzing people. So, for our sellers out there that are having that conversation, I think you have to segment it, and you have to think of this as a multi-part process. This is not, I'm going to sell my house in the morning, get my movers to arrive in the afternoon, close on my new house and move right in and be having a dinner party the next night. It's not that kind of spot. So are you finding that with your clients too?
Yes,
A
definitely.
lot of them, right?
Yeah.
And I think so that's what we've been telling people is focus on that. If you're going to sell, focus on the sell first, and then we worry about what happens next. Because if you have
Yeah.
to sell before you
Because you
buy,
have to be ready. I mean, when that home comes to the market, you need to be ready with
jump.
paper in hand and ready to write and jump on that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I think people aren't necessarily ready to do. So then they get passed over for other people, you know?
For sure.
Crazy, crazy, crazy. Well, what else? What are any other predictions you're thinking about in the market, or things you're thinking this might happen, or tips you'd give to a seller that calls you today?
List today. No, I mean, I think it's if you're not ready to list today, because let's be honest, a lot of sellers are calling and saying, we're hearing the market's great. We want to eventually sell. I don't know if we're ready now.
Yeah,
I say, like you said, I don't have a crystal ball.
yeah,
I can tell you that the market is phenomenal right now for sellers. I
yeah,
can't tell you it's going to be phenomenal in September or October. So get your place listed, ready right now, because right now that's something that you can do.
yeah,
And follow the market. The market changes every single day.
yeah,
So what I've been doing is, just giving them updates and following stats.
mm,
And, maybe September rolls around and it's not a good time to list.
yeah,
So we kind of have to just go through plan A, B, and C and say, if in September it's not a good time to list, what does that look like? Does it mean waiting until February?
yeah,
Kind of talk through all of those options and just be ready to list if it's a good time and have a
yeah,
plan B if it's not. Um, but ultimately sellers are always very fixated on, when is a good time to list and what number they're going to get. But at
yeah,
the end of the day, there's so much more to selling a place. You have to think about what's best for your family. When is
yeah,
it going to be the most convenient time for you? We have kids virtually learning right now. We have, parents working from home. It's not easy to sell a house right now.
yeah,
So, I tell them that we got to look at that. We have to look at the data and the best time to sell and when we're going to get the highest dollar, but we also want to make sure that this is a convenient time for you. You have somewhere to go.
yeah,
Where are you going to go after your home sells? So just
yeah,
think through everything and not just the dollars, because, sometimes it's just not worth it. I'll give one last analogy before
yeah,
I leave, but I had a seller contact me who um, who basically had an offer from a neighbor, and they were going to sell. They weren't going to sell until next year, but they were going to take this offer because they thought they could get more this year. And so I started asking questions. Well, where are you going to go? Well, we're going to rent a place for a year. Well, they're pregnant and they're having a baby. And I said, well, have you looked at rental places? And ultimately, it turned out that it was going to be more expensive. It was
ooh,
going to be a huge pain. And, even though you might get more today than you will next year, sometimes it's just not worth it. So just think through everything,
yeah,
not just
yeah.
the dollars and not just the timing.
Yeah, yeah. It's great advice. It's like timing the market is the hardest thing to do because you don't know if you've timed it well until down the line. Like we're really thankful that we refinanced last year, and when we did, which was in July, which was when the rates were lowest, but you thought they were low at the time, but then, fast forward 3 months and you're like, oh, people were going, oh, I should have refinanced then. And it's like, you know,
Yep.
how do you know? And we didn't even get the lowest rate we probably could have, but we got a better rate. So, what are you going to do? You can't time it out. So, well, awesome. Haley, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Great. And I'll see you soon. I'm gonna bid you adieu, Haley. Westhoff from Compass. Thanks so much for tuning in, and thanks for all of you out there in internet land tuning in for us. I'm gonna send Haley back to our virtual green room before Steven joins us here in a few minutes, and so I'm gonna send you out. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. I'm so excited to see so many people liking and commenting and jumping in with us tonight. Thanks all of you for joining us for night 1 of Home Seller Week. This is round 2 for us. Last week, we did a whole week devoted to home buyers, and we had events during 3 of the weeknights and then on Saturday morning, and we had so much covered, some wonderful guests. And you can rewatch all those broadcasts on my Facebook business page, which you might be watching from now, or maybe you're watching from my personal page. It's just Scott. If you search Scott Curcio Real Estate, you will find it. And tonight we are kicking off Home Sellers Week. We loved it so much for the buyers. We wanted to do it again this week. So if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube Live or Instagram Live, note if you're watching on Instagram, when we do the split screen with our guests, sometimes it goes weird and you will see like this and like half of our faces but hear us. So you can always pop over to Facebook and watch us there. You'll find it on my personal page, Scott Curcio, or you'll find it on our business page, which you can just search Scott Curcio Real Estate. Easy peasy. And if you comment we'll see it here and we can reply to you. Instagram takes a little bit longer because we have to go through a different channel to get to those, but we will get there. Pop questions, like, comment, and share, please. Haley and I had a great conversation there for a while talking about kind of when's the best time to list and what do we see coming. We're at these really ridiculous inventory levels right now, especially for single family homes. And if you look in the chat, you will see some of the stats. Single family homes, the month supply of inventory is 1.6. To give you a perspective, I don't think we've ever seen it that low, and it's been pretty much falling for the last 3 years. The month supply of inventory, key metric that tells us, is it a market favoring buyers or sellers? And if it's around 5 or 6 months, it's kind of even. Nobody's really in the lead. But as those number of months, or the month supply gets lower, so if we go from 5 to 4 to 3, it's progressively being more and more favorable to a seller. And then on the flip, if it's going from 5 to 6 to 7 to 8, it's now progressively favoring more buyers. So it's telling us if we didn't sell anything, if no more homes came to the market, how long would it take to sell through what we have? Right now, it would take 1.6 months. And this is, by the way, just for the city of Chicago. We're talking very macro. It's going to depend. If you're a seller or a potential seller watching, and you're going, well, what's it for me in my house? I have a condo in West Town and in the $500,000 price range. You're going to see something maybe a little bit different because it's very nuanced. So we can always drill down to the micro, but today we're talking more big picture stuff as we figure out when's the best time to list. Of course, a lot of us are saying now because we know what now is. We don't know what tomorrow looks like. We don't know what next month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year. So we make our best guesstimate. So Steven's going to come on with us. Are you ready for us? Give me a thumbs up if you can, because I can't hear you right now. Love it. Okay. Let me flip over here. And I'm going to add you to the stream. There you are. Welcome to our little party. Are you still wearing that sweatshirt?
I am still wearing that hoodie, and I apologize if you can hear my children screaming in the background. They're getting
that's super fun. Steven's wearing this amazing image of a tweet today that I love, and I want to get one because I think it's hilarious. Well, introduce yourself for the people of the internet.
People of the internet, my name is Steven Natow, and I work with Stephen and Ryan at Keller Williams One Chicago.
Awesome. Let's dive in. What are you here? So tonight's theme is when should I list my home, right? Let me just open my crystal ball. Oh wait, it's broken. So tell me what you're kind of seeing and what questions you're getting asked from clients. Like what are people asking you? What are you seeing? Like where do you see us going over the next 3, 6, 9, what have you months?
So I actually was telling individuals end of 2020 that I felt like this year would be the exact opposite of last year, where it's kind of dead until June. And then I felt like our spring market hit the summer, and then it was kind of consistent through the end of the year. I actually was telling people, think of 2021 like you would an election year, where around halfway through the year, everyone hits pause psychologically, where they're like, I want to hold off and see what happens with the country. And I'm not saying there's a right or wrong to it, but I see that over and over on election years, specifically presidential elections. And I kind of felt like, you know, similar to what you and Haley were saying, people are rushing to get their real estate purchases done before the summer, because after that, there are things that they want to do that they've been putting off for over a year. And so I feel like the travel section, or the travel part of the economy, is going to explode. What's interesting is I found that like the pandemic has shifted people's focuses on what's important. And I actually feel like while the real estate market is booming, it's very property specific. So like even COVID and the pandemic in general, you have people focusing on outdoor space more so than they ever focused before. You're having people focus on maybe smaller buildings versus high rises. And then in turn, you get individuals that are young enough kind of jumping into the market saying, you know what, I have no problem with the high rise. I have the vaccine. And so they're looking at deals, I think, more in like downtown areas. But what I felt like most individuals are competing in multiple bids is those detached single family homes in a conventional loan limit. Like that, I feel like has kind of lit the fire of the city as far as like where the demand really truly is.
Yes, no doubt. Single family homes. I'm like, I feel like I could sell like 5 or 10 of them a day if I had them. You know, I think we're all saying that. Like, give me more. You know, some of the condos, not always so much. You know, but again, it depends.
I mean, it depends. Like, I sold a condo. I listed it last, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. Listed it last Wednesday for showings for this weekend, and it's under contract as of today. And it's in a high rise in East Lakeview. So we had decent traffic. Were we getting like huge multiple offers, like 5, 6 offers? No. I do think it's kind of product specific as well as price point specific.
Agreed. I think it's almost been, I think, more challenging than we've ever had it before, because you really have to drill down into that. What do I have? Where do I have it? And what kind of product is it? You know, it's like, you know, if you look at you look at downtown luxury condos, you've got close to some price points, a 30-month supply of inventory. Like,
correct.
Like, and that's been, I think, a challenge for a lot of people. You know, like, oh my God, like, why does this part suck? And then over here, it's going so crazy. I'm like, well, it's a little different over by you. You know? You know, we've been talking a lot about what's going to happen this summer, and specifically kind of feeling like, I feel like it will potentially see a slowdown. So we've got a lot of people now that are like, well, I want to go now. I'm like, yeah, go now, because I don't know what it looks like come June or even July, you know? And I think, do we see a slowdown July earlier than we typically do? You know, I've always observed more that late July slowdown, and I wonder if it comes, you know, if it hits in June this year.
I don't know. Like, I feel like I think the detached single family home market will slow down for sure. I think condos, depending on the product, will stay for the most part the same. Again, we have limited inventory. I think the buyer demand isn't going anywhere. Like, I was talking, actually it was in our group chat. I was saying like, I have like 14 listings coming up probably in the next 2 months. And I still have like at least like 9 to 10 buyers in the pipeline that I've actually pushed off. There's a couple people I pushed to rent for a year, where I was like, this is not the experience that you want. And each case is specific to itself, where, you know, you have the person who's pregnant in June and they're delivering in June and they're trying to time stuff. And I'm like, honestly, like, I would feel more comfortable knowing that you for sure have secured something than keep pushing and pushing and pushing and just hitting that brick wall each time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point, because I do feel like our buyers have just been put through the ringer, and I've seen a lot of them be like, I'm going to dial it back for a little bit,
Yeah, and that, again, that was a client also situational where because of COVID, they were unemployed and have now been consulting. And so I was like, you should wait until you have those 2 years under your belt consulting.
Yeah.
And then your purchasing power is going to change drastically.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe you're thinking of your forever home or your like 10-year home. Maybe this year is not the year to do it. Maybe it's next year or afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good
Time in 15 years where I told people now is not the time to buy.
Well, and I think though that's what makes you a good broker, is sometimes you're like, is this real? Like you kind of like, maybe it's not. Like maybe it's going to be easier for you. Like, do you need to rush? And for some people, they're like, no, I really want to do this. Okay, then let's do it. And other people, it's like, well, maybe it's not the right time. Maybe it's or maybe it's more doing, the private listing, the whisper listing, if you're not quite ready to go. I've told my sellers, and I just had this conversation with some folks this week, like, if you're not ready for someone to walk into your house the first week it's on the market and want to buy it, and you be out in 30 to 45 to 60 days, it's not the right time to put the house on the market, because that's the expectation, and they're going to want to be in. So if moving is giving you pause, then let's pause now versus later, lest we get in a situation where we go in, it's just too fast. And I have found for some people this year, I almost feel like it's been too fast, where they're like, well, they really weren't ready, or everyone thinks either they think it's going to sell right away, or they think, oh, it's never going to sell. And then it sells, and they're like, what do I do now?
Before I list anything, I think I have that conversation where it's like, okay, what are the 3 to 4 scenarios that you see as like the next chapter?
Yeah.
Do you think that you're going to be able to accomplish the purchase? Do you think that you need to have the backup of the rental? Is there that friend that you can stay with for a short period? Like I have a couple people looking at corporate housing. It's really just making sure that they've done enough homework that they never feel backed into a corner.
Yeah.
This is the only option for you to move forward.
Yeah. I think that's really good. So sellers, if you're out there listening, like, have that. Like, that's how you make sure you're not going to get yourself backed into a corner, because the buyers will come in and they'll be fast, furious. They'll be like, let's go, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. And the last thing you want is the person that really wants to buy your house, and you're like, I don't know if I want to sell it. And then everybody gets angry and ticked off. And then they go, well, screw you. If you don't want to do this, I'm out, I feel like we've seen a number of those this year in my experience in my travels. Not usually my clients, but more so other people sometimes, where you're like, what's going on here? Like, why are you on the market? Don't be on the market if you don't want to sell.
I mean, I had a seller who was like, I can't accommodate showings Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And I was like, okay. Like, and I get it. Like, everyone's working from home remotely. And it's kind of hard to juggle that and manage that. But I also feel like, okay, does this need to be a conversation the day before we're going on the market?
Yeah. Well, and we've had that too with a lot of people, where you don't want to put the restrictions on. Restrictions, I think, were much easier last year on listings. It was way easier. Now I think there's that perception of like, why are there all these restrictions? And it's like, well, don't just work within them. Like, don't worry, just come during those times and you'll be fine, But I find we get more of that pushback from the brokers than we do the buyers.
I would agree. What I've found, just in my conversations with other brokers, I have found that it's a struggle broker to broker based on how you've structured and streamlined your business and organizational flow.
Yep.
Where I had someone upset that they had to fill out a cover sheet. It was brought to my attention because it was a Keller Williams agent. And they're like, can you believe that they're requiring this cover sheet to be filled out in addition to the offer? And I looked at the cover sheet and my first thought was, this looks amazing. Like
I want that.
I was like, can you forward that to me? Yeah, right. I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, if I'm the listing agent and I have 5, 6 offers coming in, is there one page that I can just look at everything and it kind of summarizes. And it was detailed enough to the point where it's like, are you home sale contingent? Check yes or check no. Like,
Yeah.
it's really good. And I like applauded this agent for, you know, thinking outside the box and how can I make this easier for my clients and for myself.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting that the broker on the other side was just kind of frustrated by it.
Yeah.
But also, I feel like most buyers brokers right now are just pulling their hair out.
I know. It's kind of like, oh, another thing, you know. And I do think that our industry tends to be, there's always a lot of like fly by the seat of the pants. And so when you try and put too much information or organization, I feel like it's almost sometimes too, like people aren't used to it. They're like, what are all these notes? You're like all the information you need to show the property, sell the property. That's why they're there. So you don't have to ask us. We've thought through it, but we have that a lot too, where people will come back and say, oh yeah, I didn't look there. It's like, yeah, we told you to look there. Like it literally says to look there for the other information. But I think sometimes people just they're not ready for that level of information. I think that's brilliant. If somebody knew they were going to get multiple offers and they were like, how can I make this easier? You know? But even in the position of, this will make it easier for my seller to consider your offer. Those should be magic words. Great, I'll do it.
Totally.
Want a pony? I'll send you a pony. You know,
How many people have asked their clients to write like a letter to the sellers, a sob story about my life, which I personally will not read. Like I can't.
I don't read them. I don't care.
Like we're just forwarding this. Sellers have been like, "Did you read about that couple?" I'm like, "No, I don't have time for that." But I sit there and think, okay, if the buyer's agent is instructing their clients to do this, and then you have the listing agent instructing the buyer's agent to do this, like, why are we not trying to cooperate or trying to evolve and make this a little bit easier on everyone?
Well, and wouldn't it be amazing if anytime you were submitting an offer, you just submitted it with a cover sheet that said, here's all the quick, I mean, you're still going to read the offer anyway, but imagine how easy that would be for someone that's like getting the offer on the fly. We've been having a lot of people recently. We're totally for all the sellers out there, we're dovetailing a little bit to more industry talk, but it's important for you to know kind of what goes on, you know, peek behind the curtain. Like we've been getting a lot of offers submitted. What's that?
I felt like Haley covered a lot. We can add on.
Yeah, there you go. We've seen a lot of people like sending stuff through .loop where you're like, I can't now really easily download it. Or we've had a couple things sent as like zip files. I'm like, could you just attach it to the email? Can you just make my life easier? And then I'm like, now I gotta like get it downloaded and save it and do the whole to do. And I'm like, oh my God, you're making this so difficult. So I think it's like one of those things as a realtor for a seller, it's like, oh my God, just make it easy. Just lay me everything out, you know?
Yeah, there's software that I'm using that kind of isolates the key terms of the contract and allows you to write your pros and cons of what your thoughts of the offer. And I've been using that to the seller. It's kind of, I just feel like people are looking for like that brief summary. How can we make things more efficient? So that's what I've been using for the most part.
I have to look at something like that. That's fun. Just write sucks really large over it.
Did you see?
Don't even
tax is 200%.
Oh my gosh.
What else? Your thing is, when should I list my home? I actually don't think that there's a bad time to list your home.
Yeah. I'm gonna write that down. I'm taking notes on all this while we're writing, so I have follow-up notes.
I mean, here's the thing: is like if everyone does that thing where they're, okay, it's October, I'm not going to list until January or February, then there's even a market for that individual is like, okay, if everyone's doing that, I'm going to come in October and November because I have competition.
So I want to this is my official pitch for the period listing your house between October 20th and like November 20th. That is like my favorite time because we have found consistently, so that's my tip for tonight. We've found consistently that is such a perfect time. It's like, it's not holiday and it's not cold, but it's not necessarily super warm anymore. So it's kind of like that in between. And we had our busiest November ever last year. And we had a lot of properties list in that like late October to early November time period, where one of the things we've even thought this year is because that period from like August 15th to about October 20th were so slow, we felt last year, we're wondering, should we pocket list everything in that period and not officially bring it to market until we hit late October, so we don't eat up market time? Because we had a lot of sellers that got caught in that last year. But I don't know what this year's going to look like, but I love November listings. They're great.
I feel like as long as you can have like a logistical conversation, a rational conversation about market time.
Yeah.
To me, I don't care if the property's been on the market for 90 days, if the average market time is like 200. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all perspective. Like, I don't expect that 2-bedroom, 2-bath in a high-rise condo to behave the same as that same price point, but a detached single family in a different neighborhood.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, well, I also think too, that's one of the things that we've actually addressed a lot with our sellers, but more so with our buyers, is for every one of our properties we bring to market, we always know what the average market time is, because it never fails. Someone will come in and say, oh, it's been on the market 30 days, hasn't sold, it must be overpriced. And our response is always like, well, the average market time for condos in the neighborhood or condos in this price point is such and such. So if it's 62 days and we're at 29, I'm not worried, because we've got another month to go, and some of them don't sell over. I mean, you've been in business long enough. Like, there are some houses that they just don't find their groove right away, or it takes a while. They may not sell for a couple months, It's just not everything sells like that. I mean, like a lot of times it will, but some of them need a little bit more love, a little bit more hand holding. They don't all fly off the shelf.
Well, I just feel like not every home is meant for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to wait to find that like match.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine like sitting there and saying like, I'm the perfect catch for everyone. Like, if I was like still single.
You are, but
I mean, totally. But like, if I was still single, like, I wouldn't assume that like I was a perfect match for everyone. So why would I expect the same of a house?
Oh, so good. I mean, which brings it back that real estate is like dating.
I've watched so much Oprah, and I just translated it into real estate language.
Real estate is like dating. I've said that for so many years. So it's like, well, there you go.
My go-to with sellers, listen right now, I spend probably about anywhere between 60 and 90 days getting a property ready to market. And I find that Tinder and online dating has changed real estate more than anything else. That our ability to make a snap judgment on someone based on the first 3 or 4 photos, like, if your property is not compelling enough, someone swiping left. See, online dating came way after I got.
Right, so like, is that what you do? So, I don't know. Just right now, swipe right? I don't know.
Oh, I know. But I feel like if you're not catching that person's attention in the first 4 photos, you're missing an opportunity.
We talk about that all the time. I hate it when a listing doesn't get into the interior photos until like photo 5. I'm like, you've lost me. They're like, well, yeah, tell them. You lost me. And it's really funny. A good friend of ours is a songwriter, and he's talked about the mechanics of a song and how you pretty much have the first 8 seconds to get somebody hooked in on a beat or a tune. And it's fascinating, because I'm like, it's almost the same for us, right? Like, and to your point, 3 to 4 photos. If I don't like it so far, I'm out, right? I got to move on. So what are those 3 to 4 photos? How compelling are they? And it's the same when someone walks through. I think you have about 15 seconds, 20 seconds when they actually physically walk through the door, where they're going, I like it, or yeah, not so much.
Yeah. It's a feeling. And I generally tell sellers that I can tell if a showing is going really well if I can get the person to sit down. If I can get the person to sit down and have a conversation with me in the property, it's a good showing. And so that's all kind of my goal.
Ooh.
I make it conversational instead of like we're not here to sell cars. We're here to like figure out if the property is a match for the buyer. So let's make a conversation instead of a pitch.
I like that. I'm writing all this down. Well, we could probably keep talking all night, but we're almost to time for our little dog and pony show here tonight. And it sounds like the children need you.
Do you want to say hi? Say hi, Scott.
In the flash. What advice do you guys have for people selling their houses right now? I want to hear all of your advice.
We bought a blue Nerf gun.
There you go.
I mean,
And then that's the answer.
yeah.
I'm gonna write that down. All right. Well, I'm going to send you off into bedtime land, and we'll do a little wrap up here. But thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was great. Thank you to Haley Westhoff and Stephen Natal for popping in and just sharing some really great thoughts and feedback on when should I list my home and lots of other topics that we covered. I don't even know how to recap it all. There's so much. I have many pages of notes. But thank you. I'm gonna send you back to the virtual green room, and then you can exit. Bye, guys. Thanks for coming. Bye. Oh my gosh. Thank you to Stephen and to Haley, and thank you to all of you that tuned in tonight. That was a fantastic discussion. We really hit on so many different points about, the when I should list my home, to even just great tips about getting your home ready and how you prepare as a seller. And that we went down so many different rabbit holes. Got ourselves back to the center, though, many times. So if you stuck with us for most of it tonight, thank you so much. Thanks for everybody that liked, commented, and shared. We will have this broadcast saved on my Facebook business page, which if you go to Facebook and you search Scott Curcio Real Estate, you can also put in facebook.com/Scott Curcio Real Estate, and it'll take you right there. You'll be able to see that. Tomorrow night, we are talking about the top 5 things that are most stressful for a home seller and how you can try and avoid them. We've got a couple of different guests. Our own Leah Shields will be joining us, talking about getting your documents and your information together so it makes the process smooth. We'll also have one of our main home inspectors, Jamie Dunsing, joining us, talking about some of the main things that he sees frequently on home inspections. And then a couple of our past clients who recently sold homes, talking about prepping their home for sale and the importance of staging, and also like, how do you figure out your time and how do you get out? We've talked about this. You sell in your house where you don't necessarily know where you're going to go, and how do you bridge that gap and how do you stay sane through doing it? So be sure to tune in tomorrow night back here on Facebook Live, Instagram Live, and YouTube Live. That is Wednesday evening. See, don't even know what day it is anymore. It's Wednesday evening, May 5th, 7 p.m. Central. And then also we'll be back Thursday night with some more tips at 7 o'clock and Saturday morning at 10. Very excited for it. Hope you'll join us then. Thank you to everybody that tuned in. And it's almost 8 o'clock, so saying good night. Like, comment, share this with your friends. If we can be of real estate service to you, please do send us a direct message or contact us on email. Visit our website, scottcurcio.com. And we will see you soon. Thanks for tuning in. Good night.